What's good, YouTube? I appreciate y'all tuning back in. If you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn your notifications on as well so you don't miss out on any new episodes. But this episode is going to be a little bit different. As you can see, I got some of my seedlings set up outside here in one of my garden beds. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to split this episode up into two parts. It's going to be a little bit less formal as well too. The reason being is I wanted to give some tips about how to properly care for seedlings. As you can see, I got some of my seedlings out here right now, and I'll zoom in and show some of them a little bit closer later on in the video. But I wanted to give some tips on how to properly care for seedlings, but I can't give so many tips and apply it right now just because they needed to develop a little bit more. But I should be able to give some small tips. So I wanted to make this video more of like an updated garden tour from the video that I did earlier, probably episode 1, I guess. But the updated garden tour, what I got going on right now, how things are progressing, and some of the mistakes I made so far, and some of the things that I think have gone well so far, just to get an update with the growing season coming up within the next 3 to 4 weeks. So I can go ahead and get right into it. I'm gonna walk through everything that I have out here, some of the stuff that I had in the greenhouse I took out. I got some stuff on the back porch, and then I still have some stuff in the garage too, but I'm gonna pretty much just walk through all that. And then, like I said, in the second part of the video, I'll do an update on how to properly care for seedlings. So I'll go ahead and get right into it. So right here, I just got like a small, it's like a double, well, not a double, but it's pretty much the same type of pot, but I wanted to make like a microgreen little mini salad type mix. So it's a little experiment I'm doing. So what I did is I took a handful of like different types of seeds. So if I'll zoom in, you can see it's like it's kale, spinach, lettuce, Swiss chard. It's a whole lot of different stuff. So you can see like the kale leaf right there, like a little piece of like scarlet kale, I believe that's the specific variety of it. But I wanted to make like a small like micro salad or microgreen salad pot, I guess, I don't know. But it's a little experiment I was doing, so I did both of those in both of those pots, and I've been leaving this outside and they've been doing just fine. I think the growth will be pretty slow just because they're all crowded up, but I think it should still work out pretty fine. These are a lot of the seeds that I started a couple months back, or not really all a couple months back, but within a range of a couple months back up to just a couple weeks ago. So I think this is Brussels sprouts right here. You can barely see it. It just recently sprouted. This is kale. What I think I did here is I've been leaving it in my greenhouse. My greenhouse gets real hot during the day, and then it gets cold during the night, so it doesn't have real good insulation. So I think the hot weather kind of stunted the growth on the kale and the lettuce. But over the last couple of days, I've been seeing them kind of do a little bit better. Like you can see the true leaves right there on the lettuce, and then the kale, you can barely see it. It's hard to zoom in, but you can see the true leaves starting to form in the kale right there. This is some cilantro that's just sprouting. You can barely see. You can see right there. You can see like it's starting to sprout. But all of them have started to sprout in the cilantro. This is some broccoli and collards that I recently planted. As you can see, like right here is what's called a true leaf. So a lot of times seeds that are all in the same family, when they first sprout, they look all the same. So like broccoli and collards and Brussels sprouts actually are all in the same family, and kale too, cauliflower, and a lot of other things as well too. But they're in the same family, so you can see how the first two leaves look pretty much the same, but then once the true leaves come out, you can start to distinguish what type of plant it truly is. And I'll go a little bit more into detail about that too when I show some of my other seedlings like the tomatoes and the peppers. But here's some Swiss chard in the back. Here is some kale as well. I'm gonna probably thin that out a little bit over the next couple days. And this is some sage as well that's doing pretty good. Like you can see those true leaves have come out. They've been out for a pretty good while now. And I'm sorry if it's not focusing pretty good. I'm not real versed with the camera, but I'm gonna try to make it as clear as possible and as easy to read and easy to see as possible. So that's some of the seedlings that I currently have. I keep them in the greenhouse during the afternoon when it gets real cold, but it's been warm during the day, so I wanted to keep them outside. I'm actually, it's called hardening them off, and I'm probably doing it a little bit too early, but I mean, it's worked just fine for me in the past, so I continue to do it that way. So I'm gonna switch over and show some of the stuff that I planted in my other garden beds, and then I'll show some of my other seedlings on the back porch as well. So I won't spend too much time here, but they haven't sprouted yet, so there's really not much to see. But I planted 2 square feet of snap peas. So I planted 8 in this one and 8 in this one as well. And then once they sprout, I'll put like a trellis up on each one. But I'll have 16 different plants. If you want to refer back to my last video, I talked about square foot gardening. Peas, you can do 8 per square foot. So I'll have 16 different pea plants in just these 2 square feet of space. and that still leaves pretty much the entire garden bed left to plant other stuff. So I planted those last week, and I don't think I recorded a video on how to do those, but I recorded a video on the other ones. So I want to go over here. These are where I planted the beets, and then these are where I planted the carrots. Again, if you refer to my last video, I talk about square foot gardening and how you can maximize the amount of plants that you have per square foot. So in this spot right here, I planted well over 16 seeds, but I'm gonna thin it out to 16 seeds and make them all evenly spaced out once they start to sprout. And I do have a video on how to properly plant carrots. And then I did the same thing with beets. So carrots and beets, they can grow well together. They can also be planted pretty early. They don't have to be planted after the last frost date. So I went ahead and got some of the beets and the carrots in the ground. And I also have a video on how to plant beets that I'll make sure that I upload pretty soon too. So, but that's pretty much all I have in the garden beds as of right now. One cool thing I wanted to show though too is, if I can zoom in all the way. So I planted some apple core, or not planted, but I put apple cores as a part of my compost into this garden bed. So these are actually apple trees that sprouted. The reason I know it's apple trees because I grew a couple of them from seed, so I know what they look like when they sprouted. But I thought that was pretty cool. I'm gonna just let them be because I don't have to plant anything in that square foot right now. So I just want to see how big it'll be able to get, but eventually I'm gonna have to end up, you know, cutting it down. But I just thought that was pretty cool that you can just throw like an apple core. It does have to go through a stratification period through the winter, so it was good that it was outside. But I think it's just cool that you can just, you know, throw the apple out and then it actually, you know, grows a whole nother tree from it. So, but that's all I have in the garden beds right now. I'm gonna show what I have on my back porch, and then I'll also show what I have in the garage too. All right, so now I'm on my back porch, and it's literally no clouds outside, so the sun is blazing, and it's really hard to get good lighting. So I apologize about that. I'll try to zoom in and get as clear of a picture as I can, but this is pretty much all the stuff that I have on my back deck right now, on my back porch. So I'm gonna zoom in on some of the stuff. This is spinach right here. Planted this in a little like sugar container, so it's been doing pretty well. It's got a couple of its true leaves already off, and technically that would be called like baby spinach right there, but I'll let it continue to grow, and I think it's doing pretty fine. This is some bell peppers, or I think one of this is an eggplant, but I can't remember which one, but eggplant, and I think 2 bell peppers right here. Like I said, the lighting is not great, so I'm gonna try to zoom in as much as I can on them, but you can see they just recently sprouted, so they haven't had too much growth and development as of yet. But over the next couple of days and next couple of weeks, especially with, you know, the weather that we're getting, it should grow pretty well over the next couple of weeks. This is a strawberry plant that I just repotted from last year. I just basically gave it some updated soil, added some feed to it. It's flowering already in a couple spots, so you can see right there, I think that might be like a little mini strawberry. But yeah, it did pretty well. It pretty much stayed alive throughout the entire winter in the greenhouse, so I'm pretty surprised about that. But it looks to be healthy so far, and it kind of looks better since I repotted it as well, so I'm pretty happy about that. The thing that I'm not happy about is some of my lemon trees. So I think I made a mistake with lemon trees. They do sustain damage whenever it goes under freezing, so I have to make sure that I don't leave them outside when it goes under freezing, and that's exactly what I did. So I'll zoom in on a couple of them, but I'm pretty sure, I don't know, most of them have seemed to bounce back and I see some new growth in them, but I think I killed a couple of my lemon trees, so that's kind of unfortunate. But if you zoom in right here, you can see, I mean, I had to prune all those leaves. They pretty much, I left them outside and they had got to about 26 degrees Fahrenheit. So I think citrus trees sustain damage at about 29 degrees. So, you know, I kind of dropped the ball on that one. But like I said, I fed them. I waited a little while to prune them so they wouldn't have too much more injury, and a couple of them have shown some new growth. But you can see like the leaves are really have had to prune the leaves a whole lot. Here is probably the most healthy one, and this one has pretty much looked to be alive the entire time, so I'm real happy about that. It's a little bit better lighting right there. And then this one is an orange tree that did pretty well. And then other than those two, everything else I pretty much had to prune a whole lot. So you can see right here, I had to prune that one, and then you can see the leaves are not really green anymore. But I saw a little bit of new growth on that one, I believe, so I think that one's good to go. And then same with this one right here. This one has kind of been lagging behind anyway. All of these trees are almost 2 years old from seed, and this one has always been kind of lagging behind, but it stayed alive the whole time. So I don't know, I've been keeping it around. So, and then there's the last one right there. But yeah, like I said, if you want to grow citrus trees, if you're not in a real tropical environment, you just got to make sure it doesn't get to too much frost. So I'm gonna switch over here some other seeds that I have, or some other seedlings that I have. So these are all the nightshade plants, or what they call. So it's like the peppers and tomatoes and eggplants and all that. So right here, these are some eggplants. I planted these about a month ago or so, and they're finally starting to get their true leaves. I kind of messed up because my garage is not finished, so it kind of gets cold in there. So I think it's kind of stunted the germination process on a lot of the seeds that I started. Here's a couple bell peppers. I'll thin them out. And one tip that I do want to give regarding seedlings is, a lot of times people, and I did this too when I first started as well, and I even did it this year as well, but a lot of people have a tendency to overwater or overfeed the plants. That's something that you want to avoid. It's better to actually underwater or underfeed them within reason than overfeed them or overwatering them. And you can see, like here on my tomato plants, they're just fine right here. But if you zoom in, if I can zoom in, like the tips of them are a little bit yellow, and that's just because I overwatered them at one point. But they're still growing just fine. The true leaves have kind of come out on those, and you can see how, you should be able to see how, like that leaf right here, there on the middle one has like 3 like parts of its leaf, and then this tomato plant right here is like a regular leaf with just 1 part on it. So they're both heirloom tomatoes, but I think they're just different varieties. But that's when you're starting to able to tell different varieties and different plants apart from each other. Here's some cherry tomatoes. So you can see it looks similar, but the true leaf looks it's a little smaller and a little more compact. And I think it's just because of the variety, which variety it is. Here's some Carolina Reaper peppers. They're pretty small, and the plant stays relatively small compared to other pepper plants anyway, but they look pretty healthy so far. Some habanero peppers right here, and a couple more are about to sprout. And then some banana peppers right here. They're doing really well. And then some jalapeno peppers. So you can see how this one is leaning over. That's when you know you're ready to go ahead and water. So you don't want to overwater, but they'll tell you whenever they're ready to drink something. And that's like a specific example right there. So I'll water that here in just a second, and I won't show it. It's pretty easy. I just won't soak it, but I'll just make sure it just has enough to get it through. But that's pretty much a look through of all the stuff that I currently have outside. I keep this stuff in the greenhouse throughout the day, but like I said, my greenhouse gets too hot, so I end up bringing them out here just so they can still get the full sunlight, but then still have a good amount of a breeze and kind of get hardened off pretty early in the growing season. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom out and go to what I have in my garage, and then that should be able to wrap up this week's episode. So this is the final part of the video, or final part of the tour, I guess. So this is all the stuff that I have set up in my garage. So I had a little bit of a different setup in the beginning of this season. I had to change it up a little bit just because I didn't have enough room, and then I had to purchase like 2 more like lights like this just to make sure I had enough lights for the seeds that I was starting. And then the bad thing about the garage as well is it's not finished, like I mentioned earlier in the video. So what I did is I just took some insulation from Lowe's, some like reflective insulation from Lowe's. That way hopefully it'll stay warm where the seeds are, just not too cold whenever it does get cold at night. And then on the inside I just got like all the seedlings and stuff before they come out. So like right here you can see this is cilantro, back there is rosemary, rosemary, Brussels sprouts, I think that's sage back there that just sprouted like last week. And this is parsley, and I think I've been over watering these, but once those leaves came out and have been green, I think that's been a good sign. But I think I've been over watering the parsley. Here's some dill in the back in that one. Here's some chamomile, and I've never grown this before, but it looks pretty good to me, so I think I'm doing fine on that. This is some, what is it, bell peppers? Yeah, bell peppers I planted about 2 weeks ago, so they're finally starting to sprout. Some banana peppers right here, some heirloom tomatoes back there, some more heirloom tomatoes that have just sprouted. And then at the bottom, it's a lot of other stuff, and I had to turn the other light off just because it's blue, so you won't be able to see like what the plants look like. And I'm trying to zoom in just to get as clear of a picture as possible. But some more rosemary right there, that's sage. I have some more of that outside. That's okra that's just sprouting right here. This is celery, real small, not really doing that well, but it's still alive, so hopefully I can just keep it going. This is collards right here. Those small ones right there is more chamomile that I recently started. And you can see it's just all, it's everywhere. It's probably 30, 40 something seedlings right there. Here's some, that's another strawberry plant, and a couple more should be sprouting. I planted those right at about a month ago. And I know strawberry seeds can take about, typically like 14 to 28 days, something like that. So they should all be sprouting within the next couple days. Then I have some more rosemary right there. Hopefully you can see some more leaves. I think it's got like 6 leaves on it right now. But that's rosemary. This is thyme. That's some more rosemary. There's basil in there. You can see the green in the bottom left one right there. But it looks like those are just sprouted. There's some more tomatoes in the back, I think, or that's cilantro in the back. Some more basil. I think that's more. I think there's cherry tomatoes right there. Right there. Some more thyme in the back. And some mint right there. And some more okra right there in the back. I think that's okra. Yeah, okra right there in the back. And broccoli right there. So, like I said, the light on this one is blue, so you're not really able to see it. So I had to, I think it might look like red or purple or something on the camera, but it's actually blue, more blue looking. But you're not able to see what the seedlings look like under that light, so that's why I had to turn it off for the video. And like see, when it goes out, you're able to see a little bit clearer. But yeah, what I did is I just used the same concept I used for the greenhouse with the Velcro. I just made like a little insulation. It's kind of rigged, but it was cheap. I got pretty much everything I need to do to set that up for like between BJ's and between Lowe's. I probably spent 50 bucks for like all the insulation for this little stand right here. And yeah, it was pretty easy to put together. So last part I want to show real quick before I end the video is, hold on one second, I'll switch out. I need to take this off and then I'll come back to the video. So for the last part of the video, this is just some more of the seeds that I recently started. A lot of these are in biodegradable pots, so I can go ahead and plant the entire pot outside or in the garden once they're done. So a lot of them are like cucumbers and squash, and they're all just like about to sprout, so you can see right there. But they're all like pickles or like pickling cucumbers, squash. I haven't started any melons or anything yet, but stuff that I'm gonna just go ahead and plant directly in the ground. That way the roots are not disturbed. So I think that's celery and these small ones right here, because the other celery didn't start that well in my opinion. But yeah, more cucumbers over here, a couple different more pepper varieties that I wanted to plant that I just came across while I was at the garden store. Some squash right there, another batch of jalapenos, and you can see it's just, if it'll zoom in, you can see where that root is, or that stem is just starting to sprout. That seed is just starting to come up. So I'll move those under the light probably today. And then this is parsley in that one. Can't remember what's in those 3, but I'll see whenever they sprout. Sage, strawberries, spearmint, squash. Another, it's called Dejay something. It's like an Indian pepper, I believe. I don't know the correct pronunciation, but Dejay something. And then I think is that Swiss chard or not, sage. Strawberries in the back, collard, red kale. I think it's called scarlet kale, but red was just easier. Zucchini, zooks. So yeah, that's pretty much all the seeds I'm starting. I'm not starting no more seeds. I think I already started too many, but I'm gonna plan on giving a couple of these plants away and selling a couple of them anyway. But that's a pretty much a full tour of everything that I got going on right now and how everything is progressing. Like I said, in a couple weeks and maybe next week, I'll do more of an update on the seedling care. But the tips that I have right now really is just let them do what they do until you start to see more true leaves. Just water them when the soil gets dry, and don't let them dry out, but just don't overwater them and don't really worry about feeding them too much right now. And next week, whenever there's a little bit more development, I'll try to get into how to actually feed them, how to properly water them, how to properly harden them off, and then how to properly get them ready to be able to plant outside, whether that be in a pot or whether that be in like directly in the garden or garden bed as well. So appreciate y'all tuning in. If you appreciated the video and appreciated the information, make sure you like, share the video, subscribe as well, and then stay tuned for next week.